the meditation carry over? I asked. The first step is to meditate. Meditation is the mother of meditative state. Without a mother, there is no baby, and without the act of meditation, there is no meditative state. We achieve permanency in meditation through repeated meditations. With daily meditations, you steadily build up that meditative condition brick by brick. Meditation after meditation, you build it. If you don't meditate frequently, that condition starts to wane. And you have to create it all over again, I asked. Yes, said Daji. It's like a plant that requires daily water and sunshine. If you neglect it, you will have to keep precipitating it. How will it flourish? But it's not enough to meditate. You must also bring that meditative consciousness into your wakeful awareness. Please underline this. You must bring that meditative consciousness into the wakeful awareness. This depends on the way in which we conduct ourselves in the minutes that immediately follow meditation. A fresh meditative state is like wet cement. It needs some time to settle down before you can carry it into your day. If you just jump out of your chair the very instant meditation ends, that meditative state of consciousness becomes fractured. This is akin to throwing it away. It's like working hard for a paycheck and then tossing it away in the garbage. If you're going to do that, then why meditate at all? So, what do you recommend? I asked. After meditation, open your eyes very gently. Then remain in meditation for a few more minutes, but with the half eyes open. Now, this is very important. In those few minutes, you are not thinking about what you have to do today. You do not check on the messages of your phone. You are still meditating, but with your eyes slightly open. Stay like this for a few moments until you feel totally present in your surroundings. Even then, move slowly at first, remain still, remain meditative. Anything jarring should be completely avoided. You will have to be a deep sea diver slowly ascending from the watery depth. Nothing can be rushed. We should even refrain from drinking water immediately after meditation. So if you were to try to ascend from the depth of the water very fast, what happens is that you will get into medical complications. So anybody who dives deep into the sea is told to come out of the sea from that depth of water to the surface very gradually. If they try to come out very fast, they end up in having medical complications. So please remember this. Okay. Likewise, anybody who goes into the depth of the meditation are told to come out of the meditation in a very gradual manner so that they don't end up having any other issues. So you're not supposed to drink water immediately after meditation. I asked why. Whenever a person is upset, a drink of water helps to calm them down. This shows that water can change their inner condition. Now, that may be good when someone is upset, but after meditation, we have to preserve the condition that we have. We don't want to change it. So, we avoid drinking water for a few minutes. Along with these lines, if we have meditated with a fan blowing on us, we should keep the fan on for some time. We shouldn't immediately turn it off or on. If it was off during meditation, it should stay off. Now, until that meditative condition is secure, we should do nothing that could possibly disturb it. Those first few minutes are critical. They determine the quality of your entire day. What happens in those few minutes that makes them so important? Your meditative consciousness merges into your normal waking state. By spending just a few minutes meditating with your open eyes, your consciousness remains meditative as you adjust to the waking state. After a short while, the two states coexist. You are inwardly absorbed but also perfectly alert to your surroundings. This is one aspect in converting the act of meditation into the meditative state. When we meditate, we acquire a new inner condition. Acquiring the condition is like a lease on the house. You may live there, but you do not own it. If you don't own it, can you stay there permanently? You see, we have to find a way to make these conditions ours. Otherwise, it's like trying to grasp a fistful of water. It just trickles away through your fingers. What is the best way to achieve ownership of the condition? I asked. The first step is to become aware of the condition. We have to be aware that we have received something. The best time to develop this awareness is immediately after the meditation. After meditation is over, simply observe yourself. Observe yourself minutely. How do you feel? Our condition can be manifest in various ways. A journal can be an extremely useful tool because if you have the time to write about your attention, you have to be attentive. When you are attentive, your awareness becomes more refined and your sensitivity increases. So, this is one way of increasing the sensitivity. If you are attentive to the state of your heart and mind after the meditation is over for a few minutes, in that way you can actually increase your sensitivity. Your awareness becomes more fine-tuned and your sensitivity increases. Initially, many people say that they don't know what to write. At first, they may write one sentence, one word, but after a few weeks, they write paragraphs, sometimes even pages. The more awareness we have of our condition, the more we are able to experience its depth and intensity. So awareness gives rise to an ability to experience conditions at a depth and intensity. A new condition is like a seed. It starts in a very small way and gradually unfolds. It expands from within and becomes enlivened. Now Daji is talking about AEIOU. You have acquired a condition in a seed form. Now gradually it becomes more broader and enlivens. It expands. Our entire being now seems to vibrate along with it. When the condition is sufficiently enlivened, it peaks. Then it takes a new turn. We now start to observe it, you see. We imbibe it. It starts to become a part of us. As it becomes part of us, our thoughts and feelings and actions start to reflect its particular characters. One interesting facet of this process is that the more we imbibe the condition, the less intense it becomes. Please underline this. The more we imbibe the condition, less intense it becomes. It starts, its feeling starts to wane, you see. Eventually, we stop feeling it altogether. So the condition disappears. So this is one thing that people need to remember. Even if you acquire, if you don't notice what you have acquired, the condition will disappear. Even if you notice what you have acquired and you actually go through the process of enlivening and then imbibing it, eventually the condition will disappear. Then we might think that we have lost it. But if you actually examine yourself carefully, you will find that it is not gone. Instead of feeling it, you are becoming it. Please underline. You no longer feel it, you become it. Now that is the unity in the condition. You are no longer there, you just, only the condition remains. So AEIOU is a very commonly asked questions in examination, so please remember. I think that probably is given in the 9-page document, so please read through that. For example, look what happens when you eat a meal. Initially, you feel presence of the food in your stomach. However, when the food is digested, you no longer feel in your stomach system. It has become part of you. Similarly, the experience of any condition Similarly, the experience of any condition only proves that it has not yet become part of you. It is still foreign. It is still a novelty. When it becomes truly a part of you, you are unable to experience it at all. Babuji used to say, the eye cannot see itself. It is itself. You become part of it. Exactly. Daji said. In that situation, the condition is truly secured. It becomes yours. You stay in this state of not feeling very much until your heart starts craving something new. And that craving is what triggers the next condition. So this cycle repeats. And the entire cycle is repeated again. Yes, Daji said. The entire process of enlivening, imbibing, and securing the condition might become second nature. After all, there are so many conditions to traverse on this journey. As we move along, we find that each condition is finer and subtler than the last one. Unless our perception becomes continuously finer, these superfine conditions will elude us. Please underline this. If our sensitivity does not increase in tune with the progress that we are making, at the higher states, we will not be able to catch any condition. Then we won't be able to enliven it and what to imbibe or secure with it. How can we make our perception more subtle? It is like learning a new language, Daji said. Gradually, we pick it up, but only if we observe carefully. Observe ourselves and pay keen attention to each condition as it comes. So we have to learn to observe ourselves all the time. And I already described how we do it. But we have to start this habit at the earliest because at higher stages, the conditions are so subtle they become almost impossible to perceive. So if we cannot perceive them, they get stunted and we cannot move forward. If, however, your inner senses have become progressively tuned to the scores of your journey, you will be able to work with those superfine conditions. You will pass through them to still finer states, eventually arriving at the subtlest condition of all, which is the conditionless condition. Often we get distracted in the hustle bustle of life. I said at those times, it can seem as if we have lost the condition that we receive in meditation. Can we get it back without meditating the second time? You don't need to meditate second time. Just stop for a moment, close your eyes, and reconnect yourself to the heart. That automatically recalls the condition. Or you can consciously recall what your condition felt like in the morning after meditation. By remembering it, we recreate it. In the morning, it might have taken an entire hour to go to a deep meditation, but now you will find yourself on the verge of samadhi in only a few seconds. How is it that the condition that took 1 hour to develop can be recreated in just few seconds? With your morning meditation, you have already forged a path. Now that path is established, you only need to follow it. You refer to your heart and it comes. And the more you meditate, the easier this becomes. Okay, I'll just stop here. Any questions on meditation? Before we proceed to cleaning. Any questions on meditation? Rajesh Kumar, you want to ask something?
Yeah, brother. Actually, sorry, I was traveling. I have one doubt.
Go ahead.
That we are doing that point A and point B, point point B. Why we have to prefer only for before bedtime?
We are not able to hear your question clearly. Just speak out.
Now it's audible.
Slightly better.
1 second.
It's okay.
Yeah, better now.
Yeah. No, we are practicing that point A meditation and point B cleaning.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have preferably why we have to do it that point B cleaning before the morning meditation time. Why we can't do it? And one more cleaning also. Why we need to do point B cleaning only?
In the morning.
That's yeah. Why we can't do it in our regular cleaning?
The point B cleaning.
Yeah.
The point B, see, regular cleaning is something different. The effect of the regular cleaning is different, and the effect of point B cleaning is different.
Okay.
The regular cleaning does not open your superconsciousness. Remember that.
Okay.
The regular cleaning is from the back. It does not help you to become aligned to the superconsciousness.
Okay.
When you do the point A meditation and point B cleaning, you are essentially opening up the superconsciousness. And we read in the last session, how do we know that we are in the superconsciousness? During meditation, you feel four things. You feel nicety.
Yes,
In other
yes.
words, you feel newness, inspiration, clarity or wisdom, and energy.
Energy.
Now, these four things gives a clue that you have been in superconsciousness during meditation. Now, as and when you actually tap into the superconsciousness, you start developing more and more clarity in life. What to do, what not to do, how not to do. So many things drop off from your life that you feel is unnecessary for your spiritual journey. Now, this clarity can only come much faster when you do the meditation on point B. The point A, the normal cleaning that we are going to now read is a process that actually gets rid of some of the samskaras from the back, not necessarily specifically working on the superconsciousness state. So their effects are different, they are done differently, So we need to be very clear in the mind. Why do we do it? So in the morning, you have got to be in a state of mind where the mind is not disturbed. You have not focused your mind on anything outside as yet. You wake up, you do the point B cleaning for a few minutes, and then you go into the meditation. By doing the point B cleaning, you are increasing your chance of going into the higher states of super consciousness. In other words, the benefit that you are going to get out of the meditation will be more if you do the point B cleaning in the morning and then do the meditation, than just directly jump into meditation. That's why you do it in the morning.
Okay, sir. Okay. Now I
In
clear.
fact, in the morning, you are in a very ideal state. The mind is not active, it is not running out of the body, it's not identified with the body, nor it is going out of the body. So the
Yes.
attention is still on the mind. So it's very easy to turn it inwards. Now, if you do the point B cleaning and then sit for meditation, you will actually go deeper into the subconscious and the superconsciousness simultaneously because of that.
Okay, I got it.
If you do the same point B cleaning, say at other times,
Yeah.
suppose you do meditation at 9 o'clock in the morning, and at that time you try to do point B meditation. It will not be as effective to take you into the superconsciousness as it would be before sunrise. So the timing of the meditation also matters. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other question? See, in this meditation and demystifying meditation, there are a lot of subtle clues that all of us need to pay attention and incorporate in our meditation practice. Today, I just saw some person who is an Abhyasi who could not change over the last 10 to 15 years that they have been practicing meditation. When they started meditation, they had an initial anxiety or reluctance to start anything new. It's been nearly 10 to 15 years since the start of the meditation. That trait has not gone at all. Now, if the meditation would have been done effectively, by this time that trait would have been replaced by an enthusiasm, a renewed vigor and enthusiasm for new things. So the person will be more dashing to try new things. Now that has not changed in the Abhyasi. So I was just talking to them about what kind of meditation have we practiced over the last 10 years, if nothing has changed over the last 10 years. If the same trait has persisted over so many years, what's the kind of meditation that we have done? So it's important to remember that meditation should actually make us change in life. If after 10, 20 years of meditation, we are what we are, that just indicates that the meditation has not been effectively practiced, whatever the reason might be, but it's not been effectively practiced. And effectively practiced meditation actually leads to real changes in our life. In our attitude to life, in our behavior in life, every aspect of life will change. And that's one thing that we have to remember. Okay, if there are no questions, we continue with cleaning then. The cleaning method is the core practice of heartfulness. Please underline this. What is the core practice of heartfulness? It is not meditation or constant remembrance. It is the heart cleaning. Its purpose is to free us from patterns of thinking, emotional reactivity, and behavioral tendencies. The results of cleaning are tangible and immediate. It's an experience. In any experience, using the method for even a few minutes can have profound effects. I have found that it can instantly change my attitude, lift my mood, and broaden my perspective. Over the years, it has often helped me to disentangle myself from various thought patterns, strong emotions, and even compulsive behaviors. One of the reasons that cleaning is so effective is that it addresses both the symptom and the cause. It not only frees us from the effect of the mental and emotional complexities, but removes it from the root. Please underline this. So it removes the symptom and the cause. In the sense that the mental and the emotional complexities, which are the symptoms, are removed along with the root, which is the cause. How exactly does the cleaning method contribute to our transformation? I asked Darji. Let us understand the problem that we face, he said. We observe that when water flows continuously over the same ground, it slowly carves out a channel for itself. Eventually, it becomes a gushing river. Similarly, when we repeatedly think about something, our thought carves a channel in our mind. Whenever our thought moves there, it deepens that channel, easing the way for our thought to flow there again and again. In this way, a single thought can develop into a tendency of thinking. Please underline this. A single thought can develop into a tendency of thinking. Our mind contains an untold number of such channels. They form a vast and complex network. When our thinking is confined to these beaten paths, it becomes narrow and repetitive. We become more critical in our tastes and hardened in our opinions. As thought begets action, our mental tendencies further develop into behavioral habits. So, whenever you see somebody having any habits or mental tendencies, all that you are looking at the inside is that they have developed a deep channel for the energy to flow in that particular process. A tendency has its own momentum. Please underline. It cannot be broken so easily. Often we have trouble diverting the mind from its tendencies. Their pull is too strong. Instead, we usually fight with them. But that's like a mud wrestling an oil pig. There is no way to win. If you want to change yourself, you cannot focus on the thing that you want to change. Please underline this. If you want to change yourself, you cannot focus on the thing that you want to change. That only strengthens that very tendency you want to do away with. Many parents know this. When training young children, we often give them negative commands. In many ways, we say, should not do this, should not do that, avoid this, avoid that. Does it work? It usually makes them more obstinate. It is better to simply divert their attention rather by saying no chocolate. Let's say, let's have this instead. Instead of focusing on the negative, we should focus on the positive. Instead of resolving not to tell lies, it is better to resolve to tell truth. But when the tendencies are strong, this approach also fails. You see, we must tackle our problems at the deepest level, which is the subconscious level. Why does it fail? This method of telling ourselves to be truthful or to be positive, it fails because whatever is there at the root has not been removed in the subconscious. That is where the root of our problem lays. However, subconscious means a belief consciousness. That means that the subconsciousness is largely inaccessible to conscious manipulation. We can change deliberate action, but subconscious action, it is subliminal. It occurs beneath the scope of our awareness. When we are barely even aware of something, how can we possibly change it? This is the biggest hurdle that we face when trying to work upon ourselves. So dealing with subliminal thoughts requires a unique approach. Absolutely, said Daji. We do not generally realize the extent to which the subconscious affects our daily experience. We are unaware of its enormous influence and the way in which it drives our consciousness awareness from moment to moment. But it is not a one-way relationship in which our conscious thoughts are mere products of the subconscious influence. Rather, the relationship is cyclic. The subconsciousness affects the conscious thoughts. The conscious thoughts affects the subconscious processes. So it's like a cycle. We are stuck in that cycle. One way to understand this interaction between the subconscious and the conscious thoughts is by comparing it to a garden. A conscious thought is like a seed sown into the fertile ground of the subconscious. That seed germinates in the subconscious. Eventually, it blossoms into consciousness awareness and becomes an enduring pattern of similar thoughts. But as a single seed produces thousands of seeds after growing into a tree, a single thought can grow into a tendency of thinking, through which we produce thousands of new thought seeds. You can see how our consciousness can easily turn into a complex jungle. A single seed gives rise to a tree, and the tree gives rise to multiple seeds. So, a single thought gives rise to the chain of thoughts, and that chain of thoughts eventually gives rise to a tendency, which in turn gives rise to the thought seeds, thousands of thought seeds. The cleaning method hits at the very root. It's not about understanding that the conscious or the programming our habits of thinking and behavior. Instead, we work directly upon the subconscious. It's like the weeding process in a garden. Whenever we pull up weeds, we must be sure that we pull out from the roots. If the roots remain in the ground, the weeds will continue to sprout over and over again. Similarly, whenever we have already planted in the subconscious, similarly, whatever we have planted in the subconscious will continue to sprout in the form of thoughts and emotions. Until we deal with those roots, our attempts to transformation often leads to frustration. Daji pause. We have now referred to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras on a number of occasions. So far, we have spoken about each one of the 8 steps except the first one, which is Yama. Yama refers to the removal of unwanted tendencies. This is exactly what we achieve by the cleaning method. This is examination question. What do you achieve by the cleaning method as far as Patanjali Yoga Sutras are concerned? The answer is Yama. Through meditation, we create an inner environment where unwanted seeds cannot take root. But it is through the cleaning method that we fry up the existing seeds and pull out the complex root structures already embedded so deeply. So in meditation, we create an environment where the seed cannot take root. But what happens to those seeds which have already taken root? We actually pull them out from the roots during the cleaning process. In yogic practice, thought seeds have already been referred in the subconscious. The thought seeds that have already been planted in the subconscious are known as samskaras or impressions. This is also another question. What is a samskara or impression? They are nothing but thought seeds which have already been sown into the subconscious. Does every thought end up taking root in the subconscious and becoming an impression? I asked. It is the thought's emotional content that gets planted, not the thought itself. Please underline this. We don't need to worry about the thought. What is the emotional content of the thought? That is what actually gets rooted. A samskara is your emotional memory. It is the emotion associated with that particular thought. We may not retain the memory at a conscious level, but its emotional content certainly remains with us. Most of the time, that emotional content becomes dormant. It's hidden away in the subconsciousness. However, when we encounter a situation that resonates with that particular emotion, the emotional state gets triggered. This produces similar thoughts to the past thought, the thought with which the emotion was originally associated. When thoughts and emotions become repetitive, our reactions become habitual. So, our emotion creates the samskaras that are planted in the subconscious. I said, yes. But every thought has some emotional content, and every emotion has some thought content. How much emotion it contains is only a matter of degree. Even if the emotion is associated with a thought that is not particularly intense, that thought will at least have a positive or a negative flavor to it. No thought is completely neutral. To be completely neutral is to say that you have no thought at all. This is the state of pure perception or pure witnessing. The greater the thought's emotional content, the stronger is the subconscious influence. That samskara or impression would be stronger. The more the emotional content, the stronger the samskara formation. We often associate thought with the mind and emotion with the heart. However, I prefer to use them as heart, mind, feel because there can be no emotion without thinking and no thinking without emotion. With spiritual experience, however, a time comes when the heart becomes completely unbiased, when it has no likes and dislikes, no preference or prejudice. That is when the mind transcends the thinking and becomes a mere witness, perceiving reality directly. Until then, our thoughts affect our heart, and the heart's activity produces thoughts in the mind. So it's a heart-mind complex. Please remember this. What determines the thought's emotional content? So Daji says samskaras are dependent on the emotional content of the thought. It is the samskaras which takes root and form samskaras. It is the emotional contents that takes root and form samskaras. Now, Joshua is asking, what determines a thought's emotional content? The answer is ego. The ego is our sense of self. It is a feeling of I-ness. To truly understand its role in creating impression, you will have to permit me to digress for a moment and go deeper into this topic of ego. Yes, please, I said. Okay, said Raju. The ego's only motive is self-preservation. It fears being extinguished. You see, therefore, it constantly works to bolster itself, to increase itself. The ego is a very funny thing. When someone asks where we feel the feelings, we point to the heart. If someone asks where we think things, we point to the head. Now, the question is, where is the ego? It does not really exist anywhere, yet it tends to dominate our lives. This is another question. Where does the ego lie? Heart, mind, body? None of the above. Since the ego does not exist in any tangible way, it secures its position through what it considers to be its possessions. For instance, you buy a big house and your ego declares, I am this. It has measured and quantified itself through this particular possession. This is how it proves its existence by assertion. However, possessions does not really mean material belongings. Rather, it also refers to anything that the ego has claimed as its own. So it could be a thought, it could be an emotion, it could be an experience, it could be a memory, whatever. They're all related to the ego. The ego says, my nationality, my language, my culture, my body, my intellect, my ideology, etc. It doesn't matter whether something actually belongs to you or not. Does actually anything belong to you? Even the soul is not ours. The ego appropriates. It identifies with something and feels a sense of ownership over it. So when the ego identifies itself with something, you feel the sense of ownership over it. Now, this feeling of mineness has a side effect. When we feel that something is ours, we develop expectations. My business should be successful. My spouse should be attractive. My car should be a luxury. You don't care about other person's business or spouse or car. But when your ego is invested, you care very much. So in other words, when the ego is invested, we actually compare ourselves to others. When our ego is not invested, we don't compare. We are happy with what we are. We are content with what we are. But the moment ego gets involved, we actually become unhappy and dissatisfied because we start comparing with others. Now, if this comparison is done with our own version, what I was say 1 week back, what I was 1 month back, to what we are now, that means that is actually helping us to make ourselves better. In other words, it's actually helping us in our spiritual growth. Are we becoming more subtler by the day? Are we becoming more refined by the day? Are we becoming less emotional by the day? These are all indications that our ego is becoming sublimated. But generally, we don't compare ourselves with our previous version. We would always be happy comparing ourselves to somebody outside. When our expectations are met or exceeded, we are happy and we react positively. When they are unmet, we actually react negatively. Now, this comparison, in the first point, if somebody has acquired some degree of work has been completed in the first point, the first thing that they lose is a comparison. You will stop doing or comparing yourself to anybody else. That's the first thing that happens in the first point. Comparison should gradually drop off. Without the comparison dropping off, there is no question of becoming non-judgmental. So without the ego's involvement, there are no emotional reactions and hence no impressions. That's right, said Daji. The ego feels entitled to certain outcomes based upon its sense of perceived ownership. Then it reacts accordingly and we form impressions. Please underline this. The ego feels entitled to certain outcomes based upon its sense of perceived ownership. Then it reacts accordingly and we form impressions. Remember that the reaction is either positive or negative. It is either towards something or against something. Every reaction contains either a dislike or like or a aversion or a attraction or a desire or fear. There is no such thing as a neutral reaction because to be neutral is to not to react. So you are saying that emotion comes from the ego? Yes, emotions come from the ego but not feeling. Please underline this. Emotions are different and feelings are different. Emotions come from the ego. Emotions has bias. It likes some things and dislikes some things. Feelings, on the other hand, has no preference or prejudice. It is generous and accepting because it comes from the heart. Subdue the ego, true feelings naturally emerge. So the difference between emotion and feelings also could be a question. Emotions arise from the ego, feelings arise from the heart. Emotions have a bit of a bias and judgmental approach. Feelings do not have that. It is actually generous and accepting. Emotions come from the ego. Feelings come from the heart. There is bias in the emotion. There is no bias in the feelings. These emotional reactions do not leave us unscathed. We always receive the brunt of our reactions. They affect our consciousness and manifest as emotional and psychological states. And this happens because of ABCD points. Now, in the chest area, there are 4 points which are called as ABCD. These 4 points determine the exact effect that a reaction will have on us. Babuji discovers ABCD in 40, A and B in 45, and C and D has to come to light more recently. Daji says that even now, many facets of the subtle spiritual anatomy are yet to be revealed to us. Please underline. Many facets of the subtle spiritual anatomy is yet to be revealed to us. Daji publicly revealed the locations of points C and D in 2015. He had already mentioned their existence to me in private, but not their locations. One day I wrote to him to find out where they are. He replied, "Please locate them yourself and send your findings to me." After spending a day internally researching their positions, I drew a diagram of where I thought they seemed to be, which I sent to Daji. He wrote back, move them a bit towards the right and it will be correct. But do not do this, share this, or it will rob others of the joy of discovering something new. However, now that the positions of these points are public knowledge, they can be shared. To locate points ABCD, start at the base of the sternum where the rib cavity begins. Measure one finger width downwards from the sternum using your own finger. Then move 4 fingers width to the left. This is the position of point B, 1 and 4. 2 fingers above is A, 2 fingers below is C. Point C is on the bottom rib, directly below point B. Point D is to 2 fingers to the left of point C, directly below the left nipple. Now the functions of these 4 points are critical, Daji said. They are closely connected to the heart, and heart is largely responsible for our mental and emotional state. Now, whenever we react to something like with like or dislike, specific vibrations emerge at point C. So point C is the point of liking and disliking. You can actually feel them. I hope people will try to notice it. Now, depending on the intensity of our reaction, the nature of the vibrations, a ripple effect is created. The ripple takes these vibrations from point C to either point A or B or D. Point A is associated with material life. So whenever our reaction concerns a worldly like or dislike, the vibrations at point C ripple to point A. As a result, point A becomes disrupted. What happens when a point A becomes disrupted? I ask. Suppose you see a beautiful apartment and say, "What a nice apartment." That feeling of liking makes a very light impression. As a result, the vibration at point C is also light, and its ripple effect to point A, the seat of material desires, is weak. But then you brood over this thought, and then I would like to stay in this apartment. The vibrations at point C now becomes more intense, and this is also reflected at point A. You brood over it again and again and become insistent. I have to now have this apartment, you think. Now that disturbance is very huge, and your emotional state becomes extremely disturbed. You are now fixated on fulfilling your desires. You may also be worried about not satisfying it. In either case, you become restless, and that restlessness robs you of your peace. Look at point B. This point is associated with sexuality. Whenever we react according to the sexual urge, the vibrations at point C ripples to point B. This arouses a feeling of passion. Now, point D is the point of guilt. When we ignore our conscience, guilt forms at point D. The effect of guilt is extreme heaviness in the system. Guilt not only arises because of our wrong actions, but because of our inactions also. This is another question. What is the cause of guilt? ABCD questions and their importance is generally asked in the examination. Please keep that in mind. For instance, suppose that you are a doctor and you see an injured person by the side of the road, yet you continue on your way. Let someone else help them, you think. The next day you read in the newspaper that the person died. Nobody stopped you to help them. I think that this guilt would haunt you all your life. The guilt arising from inactions is somehow more poignant than the guilt that occurs because of wrong actions. The vibrations that are present in point ABCD gradually settle or condense, producing what Babuji referred to as grossness. So the vibrations that present in point ABCD gradually settle or condense, producing what Babuji called as grossness. These points can only handle so much grossness. They become saturated, you see. When these points cannot handle any more grossness, the grossness evaporates and lands at 8 other points, which we now need not discuss right now because it's another subject altogether. However, the result is that we experience a cascade of psychological and emotional states. And the cleaning method clears these disturbance? I said. Yes, said Daji. As a result of our psychological profile normalizes, our emotions become balanced, and our mind ceases to fixate on that particular emotion. So what is the effect of cleaning? The psychological profile normalizes, our emotions becomes balanced, and our mind ceases to be impacted by that particular emotion. What happens when we don't have a method to clean ourselves? Have you ever seen whatever happens to a field when it is left unattended? It becomes overgrown, I said, and it eventually turns back into forest, said Daji. When samskaras are not removed, they develop unabated. They continue to strengthen and even give birth to new samskaras. How does this occur? Suppose you are walking down the street one day and a stranger insults you. Does that insult affect you or not? It depends on you. One person laughs it off, but another person wants to fight. Somebody else might brood over all day long. So we see, while certain people may react to a particular stimulus, others will not. Amongst those who do react, their reactions can be different, even when the stimulus is the same. Now, if each person can have a unique reaction to the same stimulus or no reaction at all, can you pin the entire blame on the stimulus? No, I said. It's a combination of the stimulus and something inside that prompts you to your reaction. Daji said. So there is a stimulus and there is your reaction. There is something in you that prompts your reaction. They both actually are the culprit. Unless you already have something predisposed to be affected by that type of stimulus, it cannot have any impact on you. That having something inside you is your samskara. You see, for all mental and emotional states, there are primal and proximal causes. A primal cause is the immediate cause, the inner cause, and the subconscious influence that is already inside you, the samskara, the primal cause. In this case, it represents a predisposition to react to an insult in a particular way. Suppose that the insult irritates you. The primal cause is the samskara impression that causes you to become irritated. The provisional cause is the other outside influence, the stimulus. It is the spark that ignites the gasoline. So there is a primary cause, which is the samskara, and there is a proximal cause, which is the stimulus. These two are separate. So the insult, I said, yes. And in case, it can be any stimulus. But no matter what the trigger may be, you will not react without one. Your samskara does not get triggered without an external stimulus or the proximal cause. Please underline this. Your samskara does not get triggered without a proximal cause. You remember, we read in some of the maxims that we have to treat the difficulties or the miseries that we face from others as blessings from God, and we should be thankful and grateful to them and not be revengeful. You remember that? So when people actually put you into difficult situation, they are actually acting as a primal cause to remove some of the samskaras from your system, which are the primal cause. So the people who actually trigger these reactions are the proximal cause. They're actually helping you to remove the samskaras. Without a proximal cause, your irritation becomes dormant. It is like a snake in the grass, lying silently and waiting for just the right moment for the right environment. But when a proximal cause comes along, the samskara roars to life. It rises up and becomes a catalyst for your reaction. You asked how samskaras develop. The answer is that new samskaras are built on the back of the old ones. Suppose, God forbid, that a snake bites someone. As a result, he develops a phobia for snakes. But really, that fear is not a fear of snakes, it's the fear of death in the guise of snake. A snake bite is the proximal cause. It triggers his pre-existent samskara to fear death. On top of that now samskara, he is now a new one, the fear of snakes. So the original samskara was fear of death. The snake became a proximal cause, and now there's a in between another new samskara which is formed, the fear of the snakes. This is exactly how we actually develop samskaras. The formation of samskara is progressive. You see, new ones are offshoot from the previous ones. It is like the process by which we learn. If you don't know the alphabet, you can't possibly read Shakespeare. If you don't know physics, you can't understand Richard Feynman. Similarly, what we make of the world around us depends upon our previous experience. But not every impression comes as a result of our experience, I said. For instance, in your example, a snake bite caused a person to develop a phobia of snakes. But phobias don't always arise out of personal experience. A person can be afraid of snakes even without having a snake bite. Some try to make sense of these things as in a fanatical way. They'll say that such a person must have been bitten by snake in the previous life. But that is a lazy argument. For instance, so many people are afraid of flying. By the same logic, we must have been in plane crashes in the previous lives. But airplanes have only existed for the last 100 years. So that can't be the answer. Phobias do arise from our experience, but an experience need not materialize for us to feel about it. Please underline this. Phobias do arise from our experiences. However, an experience need not materialize for it to feel real for us. For example, you can imagine a frightening snake and start to feel afraid. The snake isn't real, but the emotion is. Your imagination triggers a very real fear of death, and when your thought gets connected to your underlying fear, it automatically becomes a phobia. This isn't only true of fear or phobias. When any thought becomes connected to an existing samskara, a new samskara is formed. Please underline this. When any thought gets attached or aligned to a past samskara, a new samskara is formed. It's like in chemistry, if you add one atom of hydrogen or oxygen or carbon, a new molecule is formed. Very similar. Samskaras are like trees. Let us take the fear of death example. This is the tree's trunk. From that tree, new branches sprout. They are your phobias. The C is the sum total of all your impressions related to fear. It is a network of fears, a dynamic of fear in your subconsciousness. And our consciousness is filled with so many of these kinds of trees. I remark, yes, from each tree, a new tree grows. Ultimately, our consciousness becomes a complex jungle. Each samskara takes up a real estate in consciousness. Our energies get completely tied up with these samskaras patterns. They dominate our thinking and guide our pursuits. As our samskaric jungle grows denser, our consciousness also deadens. Its energies are tied up and its space filled. Please underline this. I keep saying that the samskaras drain your energy from the consciousness. Now, not many people have actually paid attention to this. The samskaras drain your energy from the consciousness. Then what happens? The space is filled up and the samskaric jungle grows. Then we say we are tired. We don't have any energy for doing anything. Earlier we spoke about how the human system gets saturated with grossness. Hardened impressions. Grossness are nothing but hardened impressions or hardened samskaras. Yes, said Daji. Well, nature now intervenes and purges this grossness from our system through a process known as bhoga. So nature's job is to bring some samskaras to bhoga. Bhoga means experience. In life, we undergo many kinds of experiences. Yogic philosophy tells us that these experiences are only bhoga. They are the effects of our past impression, which we must now undergo in a tangible way. However, we generally react to this process of understanding bhoga, in other words, our life experience. As a result of these reactions, we have formed fresh samskaras. So nature helps to bring a particular samskara to bhoga, and we react to the experience or the bhoga. Then we form new samskaras and add it on. Now, since this process is never ending, I said, We create impressions, they become the fructification as life experience, and then we form new expressions or impressions from these experiences. It seems as if the Bhoga only perpetuates the impression instead of freeing us from them. We perpetuate them. When we feel that we are suffering for no reason, we react. You see, we generally become confused and embittered when undergoing miseries. Why? We complain to God, what the hell are you doing? These reactions not only create new impressions but also makes us toxic from inside and deflect the grace that descends from above. Also, bhoga does not only come in the form of suffering, enjoyment is also a form of bhoga. But remember, any reaction creates an impression. So, bhoga is only helpful if we do not react to it. Please underline it. Bhoga is helpful only if we do not react to it. Yes, said Daji. This is immensely helpful. That is the wisdom of remaining serene and cheerful under all circumstances. He stood up and removed one of Babuji's books from his shelf and began to read. This is from the maxim. The external comes in the form of suffering caused by the wrongdoing done by others, against which the people generally poison their thought on account of their own ignorance. This is very improper because this action, having helped the process of purification, has in fact put you under a sense of obligation. When this is the cause, the work done through an external agency, it may be any, has in other words, rendered the function of a true friend. So this is something from the maxim that we read. So I think we are kind of halfway through the cleaning chapter. I stop here for a few minutes. If there is any question, please ask. Any questions, please ask. We are kind of halfway through the cleaning chapter. He's explained what are samskaras, he's explained what are bhoga, he's explained how the help comes from outside. So bhoga can actually help us if we do not react. The more we react, the more the bhoga, the more new samskaras we form. He's also talked about the importance of cleaning and how our consciousness gets hardened by the impressions. He's spoken about the ABCD points, their relative importance in terms of formation of the grossness. What creates samskaras is nothing but the emotional content. And what also creates samskaras is the ego. The ego determines the emotional content of a particular samskara. When the emotional content is strong, we form stronger samskaras. When the emotional content is low, we form minor samskaras. So these are all the things that we read. Any questions? Looks like everyone is actually taking rest on a Saturday evening. So people are very quiet.
No, brother, no. This is a little bit easy to understand, brother. So
These are all fairly easy and straightforward. And when questions come, you know where to look for. So it should be easy for you.
yes.
So strangely enough, Pallavi is very quiet today. Our Ratan is also quiet. Dattesh is also quiet. So that's very unusual. That means even while we are reading the cleaning chapter, they're all getting cleaned. Cleaned of all the questions. So Dattesh, I got your message. So I'll respond to you later on.
Sure, brother. Yeah.
And Ratan, you're still in Mysore studying?
Yes, brother.
So you are determined to give the exams at least one time before you end up SNP 2.
Yes, brother.
Right? You took it very casually in the early part of the SNP 2. So hopefully this time you are more serious about it, and let's all hope and pray that you clear it in the first attempt itself.
Sure, brother. I'll give my best.
Okay?
Thank you.
So these are all things that you probably already know. We probably have discussed in much more depth when we read the complete works. So if you are okay with it, then we shall proceed further. However, said Daji, we can't condemn ourselves or others for having invited our fates, whatever they may be. We can't point the finger and say, you brought this on yourself by creating samskaras. I have actually witnessed examples of this where people withhold help from a suffering person while saying, I cannot interfere with nature. This is inhuman. It is our duty to interfere with the people suffering in order to relieve them. Even worse would be to mistreat someone while crookedly professing that you are helping to purify them. Then there are also traditions in which people self-castigate. Now that is a negative approach, which will certainly create more complexities in us. We don't need it. We don't need to invite suffering. Yet when suffering is unavoidable, we must be able to accept it warmly with a cheerful attitude. You remember, we don't invite suffering, but when suffering comes, we are happy to deal with it. Is this like the idea of karma in which we are supposed to undergo the consequences of your past action? I asked. Actually, we undergo the consequence of our samskaras, not of our actions, Daji said. If you act without creating any impression at all, there will be no consequence. So we undergo the consequence of our action, not consequence of our samskaras, not of the consequence of the action. Please remember, we do not undergo the consequence of our action. We undergo the consequence of our samskaras. This is a very big point. If you act without creating any impression, there is no consequence at all. You will not partake of the effect in any way. It is only the samskara that causes this famous boomerang effect. For example, suppose you are purchasing something and later you decide to return it. Without the bill of sale, you have no basis to collect a refund. An impression is like a cosmic bill of sale. It links our action to its result. Without this impression, the action can never return to us. Remember that bhoga is nature's way of removing the impressions. If there are no impressions to remove, then there is no bhoga to undergo as well. We should remember that the purpose of yoga bhoga is not to punish or reward us, nor does bhoga exist to teach us lessons. There is a famous story of the Mahabharata. The great warrior Bhishma was felled in battle. As he lay mortally wounded upon the bed of arrows, Lord Krishna approached him. What has led me to such a death? Bhishma asked. I have examined 100 of my previous slaves, and I see nothing that could be the cause of this fate. Look beyond it, said Krishna. I cannot see beyond it, said Bhishma. But I can, said Krishna. In one life, you were prince. One day you took a snake by its tail and spun it around and threw it. It fell on a thorny bush where it died. It is the effect of that deed that you are now facing now. That is why these arrows have become your deathbed. Now, if the consequence of the Bhishma's action had come immediately, you would have understood the correlation between action and its result. In that case, he could have learned something from it and corrected himself. But when so much time elapses between the cause and its effect, we are not aware of its relationship. We miss the causality at work. When this is the case, how can we learn anything from the experience? So nature is not trying to teach us lessons. It only frees us from the weight of our samskaras, so that our consciousness remains pure and light. So the only job of nature is to create the conditions of bhoga to make us more subtle and to clean our consciousness. That's the only job of nature. Nature has no other job.
One
It goes
question,
on
brother.
purifying us all the time. You want to ask anything, Ratan?
Yes, brother. Here, like Bhishma will be doing the action, but what if like he hasn't formed samskara or he hasn't reacted to it? Would have been converted into boga or something like that. If he had done action, but he has no reaction or something like that impression.
If you do an action and there is no reaction, then you will not have any impression, so there is no bhoga. So in other words, look at Arjuna and Krishna. Krishna in particular has no bhoga of anything. Now he was the architect of the Mahabharata war. He killed so many other Rakshasas during his life, but he never carried any impressions from those actions. So he never had to undergo the bhoga of those actions. Whenever we do an activity, it is the bhoga, it is the samskaras that actually cause this, the bhoga, not the action itself. If you do an action in such a way that there is no samskara formation, then there is no impression. If there is no impression, there is no bhoga. So when we do the activity, thinking or being in the divine remembrance of God or the master, then we are not creating the impression. When we don't create the impression, there is no question of any bhoga. This is what happens. Got the point?
Yes, brother.
Krishna
Even
is
if they forcefully don't react, it will be any
not only
any
question
reaction.
of force. No, I think you got the point wrong. Not only forcefully reacting, even the subconscious reaction should not be there. Then there is no impression formation. In that condition takes time for us to get established in. We can get established in that state where there are no samskara formation. Until we enter into the central region, there is samskara formation. However little or subtle they might be. When we enter into the central region, there is no samskara formation. Because there is no ego, there is no ownership of the activity, there is no mind or anything like that. So the basic ingredients needed for samskara formation itself is not there after you cross the 12th point. So the samskara formation stops fully. Of course, Babaji writes that when you cross into the Brahmanda, samskara formation stops. But what we see is the finer samskaras continue to form. Grosser samskaras now do not form because we don't take ownership. When we enter into the Brahmanda, we become more selfless. So since we become more selfless, we don't take ownership of the action. So in that way, the samskara formation decreases a lot. Now, as we go through the mind region, the ego gets refined. As and when the ego gets refined, furthermore, we don't take ownership of the action. So at the highest level of ego formation, at the ego refinement, when we feel every activity is being done automatically without any awareness of who is doing and how the activity is getting done, then we have no samskara formation at all. So by the time we see, the more higher you progress in spirituality, the less chance of samskara formation. Even if the samskaras are forming, they are forming in a very fine nature. But once we cross the 12th point, there is no question of samskara formation because the I is gone now. The mind is gone, the I is gone, and the imagination is gone. The consciousness is also gone. If that is the case, how does the samskara formation occur? Because there is no substratum on which the samskara formation can take place. There is no material on which the samskara formation can take place. Got the point?
Okay, brother.
So shall we continue? Why does nature want to remove the samskaras? Nature's regulatory purpose is to keep our system pure, said Darji. That's the only job of nature. When impressions settle in the subconsciousness, they form vibratory buffer between the consciousness and the soul, and impressions do not touch the soul, but they form a layer around it. Now, this causes us to remain isolated from the inner source. This situation represents an imperfection in nature. But nature's job or process of bhoga grinds away slowly. Through bhoga, impressions are removed individually, but we have to undergo the effects of each one. This takes time and we will suffer a lot in the process. Meanwhile, we add new impressions at a faster rate than the old ones are getting removed. Our impressions are also too numerous to be exhausted over the course of a single lifetime through bhoga alone. That is why so many Eastern philosophical traditions insist that one lifetime is not enough to free us from their effects. But when we remove impressions in bulk through cleaning, the entire load can be wiped out within a portion of this very life. In the yogic literature that I have read, I have never come across any method for removing the samskaras, I said. Instead, the focus seems to be on replacing the negative samskaras with positive. Now, samskara is impurity. Can there be a good impurity versus bad impurity? There is only impurity. A good samskara compels the person to perform good deeds, and a bad samskara compels them to perform bad deeds. Are these two people so different from one another? Both are in chains. The difference is one is a gold chain, other one is an iron chain. Whether a chain is made up of gold or iron, it is still just the same. That is why we do not differentiate between good or bad samskaras. The heartfulness cleaning method does not discriminate. Whether good or bad, everything goes. Does this mean that we have no free will? I asked. Are we simply at the mercy of our samskaras? Not at all. We certainly have free will. And in fact, that is our problem. You see, we always retain the freedom to follow our heart's pure signal or to ignore them and surrender to the pull of our samskaras instead. That is our choice. And so the responsibility is also ours. So the choice is between the pull of the heart versus the pull of the samskara. So these two aspects in handling samskara, I said, there are two aspects of handling samskara. One is to remain connected to the heart and not to react to the samskaric pull. The other is to remove the samskara through the cleaning process or by undergoing the bhoga. So there are two ways of managing the samskaras. One, to remain connected with the heart and not react to the samskaric pull. Other one is to remove the samskara by the cleaning process or undergo the bhoga. Even if you undergo the bhoga, you are actually getting the samskaras removed. Yes, said Daji. And through cleaning, we remove the impressions in bulk as opposed to bhoga. In bhoga, it is removed individually. In cleaning, we remove the samskaras in bulk, in which they are removed individually in bhoga. Furthermore, cleaning removes impressions before they can manifest as expressions. Bhoga is an expression, but cleaning removes the samskaras even before they come into experience. To remove them without having to undergo them is like having an operation without anesthesia. We don't experience it at all. Having an operation under anesthesia, we don't experience the operation at all because we are not anesthetized. An even deeper cleaning occurs when we meditate along with a heartfulness trainer. In fact, the foundation of our samskaric edifice is completely removed in our very first sitting by the trainer. No edifice can stand without any foundation. It is bound to collapse sooner or later. In this process of purification, our role is to perform our own individual cleaning at the end of each day. By doing so, we remove particular day samskaras accumulation. By continuing to take regular sittings with a trainer, we can actually exhaust our samskaras load within a portion of our life. Yet, despite the fact that we clean our samskaras day by day, take sittings 2 times a month, the load won't go any lighter until we also stop creating new samskaras. Overall, it's like bailing out a leaky bucket or boat without bothering to repair the hole. That means being non-reactive. Yes. How can we become non-reactive? Meditate. In meditation, we learn to ignore our thoughts. We do not entertain them, nor do we fight with them. They are like mere dreams passing before us. When we become as non-reactive in the waking state as we do get during meditation, we cease to form samskaras or impressions altogether. Then real freedom dawns. We do not have to try to remain meditative because there is nothing inside us to react to any stimulus from the external world. We move from instinct to intuition, from subconscious to superconsciousness, and from a reactive to mind to responsive heart. This is what happens with cleaning. So, three things. We move from an instinct to intuition, from the subconsciousness to the superconsciousness, and from the reactive mind to the responsive heart. So, I'll just stop here, coming up to 7:44. So, we shall continue from this page tomorrow evening around 7 o'clock. So, tomorrow it will be at 7 o'clock. We have the Kannada session between 5:30 to 7, and then 7 to 8:30 we can have the English session. So I'll stop here. Any questions you can ask before we can end the session today.